I woke up to the sound of a sickening crunch followed by my roommate swearing loudly in the living room. I ran out to find my brand new, customized $4,200 MacBook Pro sitting open on the coffee table, with the screen completely shattered into a psychedelic spider web of broken glass and bleeding LCD colors. The image is burned into my brain. The liquid retina display, the one I paid extra for, was flickering violently. Vertical lines of neon green and pink were strobing across the black void where my desktop wallpaper used to be. And sitting right there, resting innocently on the H and J keys, was a heavy, brushed aluminum earbuds case. My roommate, Kyle, 24M, was standing over it, looking pale. "What did you do?" I whispered. My voice didn't work properly. It was 3 a.m. I was in my boxers. "Bro," Kyle said, his hand shaking. "I messed up. I messed up bad." I walked over to the laptop. I didn't touch it. I was afraid if I touched it, it would fall apart. This machine was my life. I'm a freelance video editor. This MacBook had the M3 Max chip, 128 gigabytes of RAM, and 8 terabytes of storage. It was the tool I used to pay my rent, buy my food, and build my career. I had bought it 2 weeks ago. I still had the box. "Why is it out here?" I asked, my voice rising. It was in my room. Closed. On my desk. "My laptop was lagging," Kyle explained, talking fast. "I just wanted to play a quick round of League. Your computer is a beast, right? I figured you wouldn't mind if I borrowed it for an hour while you were sleeping. You went into my room while I was sleeping." "You were snoring," he defended weakly. "I didn't want to wake you. I just grabbed it." "And the screen?" I pointed at the bleeding pixels. "I lost a match," Kyle admitted, looking at the floor. "I got mad. I slammed the lid shut. I didn't see my earbuds case sitting on the keyboard. I just slammed it." I looked at the aluminum case. It was thick. When he slammed the delicate glass screen down onto that metal brick with the force of a rage quit, physics took over. The fulcrum effect shattered the display instantly. "You slammed a $4,000 computer because you lost a video game." "I didn't know it was that expensive," Kyle yelled, suddenly defensive. "It's just a laptop. My Dell cost like $500. I'll pay for the screen repair, okay? Relax. It's probably like $100. $800. I laughed. It was a cold, hysterical laugh. "Kyle, this is a fused display assembly. You can't just replace the glass. You have to replace the entire top lid, the sensors, the camera, the calibration." "So, 200, he guessed. "Try 800, I said. "Minimum. And that's if the logic board isn't bent from the impact." 800. Kyle's eyes bugged out. "I don't have $800. I work at a coffee shop. You can't expect me to pay that. You stole my laptop." I shouted. "You entered my room, took my property, and destroyed it. You are paying for every single cent." "It wasn't stealing," he argued. "We are roommates. We share stuff. I let you use my blender." A blender is not a professional workstation. I reached down and gently closed the lid. The crunching sound of loose glass grinding against the aluminum made me want to vomit. "I have a deadline tomorrow," I said, staring at the silver slab. "I have a client delivering raw footage at 9 a.m. And I have no computer." "Use mine," Kyle offered, pointing to his battered, sticker-covered laptop on the floor. "Your laptop can't even run Chrome without lagging, Kyle. How is it going to render 4K video?" I looked at him. I looked at the ruin of my career on the table. "I'm going back to bed," I said. "Do not touch it. Do not move it. We are going to the Apple Store at 10 a.m. when they open. And you are bringing your credit card." "I can't go at 10, Kyle said. "I have a shift." "Call out," I said, "or I call the police for theft." I walked back to my room and locked the door. I didn't sleep. I lay there listening to the silence, plotting exactly how I was going to extract $4,000 from a guy who thought a blender was equivalent exchange for a MacBook Pro. At 9 a.m. sharp, I pounded on Kyle's door. "Get up," I shouted. "We are leaving." Kyle opened the door wearing pajama pants, rubbing his eyes. He looked annoyed, like I was the one who had inconvenienced him. "Dude, seriously," he groaned. I was up late. "I told you, I'll Venmo you the $100 later. Can't we do this after my shift?" "It's not $100, I said, my voice tight. "Get dressed." He shuffled to the car, complaining the whole way about how I was making a scene over electronics and how I needed to touch grass. "It's just a computer, bro," he said from the passenger seat, scrolling on his phone. "You act like I killed your dog. You have AppleCare, right? They fix accidental damage for free. That's the whole point." "I bought it 14 days ago," I said, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. "I haven't bought the AppleCare Plus plan yet. I was waiting for my next paycheck. So no, Kyle. It isn't free. It's full price." Kyle scoffed. "Well, that's just irresponsible. If you buy a $4,000 toy, you should insure it. Sounds like this is kind of on you." I slammed on the brakes at a red light. "On me. You broke into my room. You took it without asking." "I borrowed it," he yelled back. "God, you are so stingy." We arrived at the Apple store. The store was bright, clean, and terrifyingly expensive. I carried the MacBook like it was a wounded soldier. We sat at the Genius bar. A technician named Sarah walked over. "How can I help you?" I opened the lid. The crunching sound was louder this time. Shards of glass fell onto the pristine white counter. Sarah winced. "Ouch. What happened?" "Earbuds case on the keyboard," I said. "Slammed shut." Kyle leaned forward. It was barely a slam. It was a tap. These screens are just weak. Sarah ran the diagnostics. She inspected the chassis. She looked at the dent in the top case where the metal earbuds had pressed outward from the inside. "Okay," Sarah said, typing on her iPad. "So, the display assembly is destroyed. But because of the force of the impact near the hinge, the top case, the metal part with the keyboard, is also bent. And..." She shone a light into the vents. "It looks like the pressure cracked the logic board. The system isn't posting." "What does that mean?" Kyle asked, looking bored. "It means it's a Tier 4 repair," Sarah said. "We basically have to rebuild the computer. New screen, new logic board, new top case." She turned the iPad around. Total repair cost, $2,899. Because the M3 Max chip is soldered to the board, replacing the board costs almost as much as the computer. Kyle looked at the number. He laughed. "Yeah, right," he said. "That's a used car. Nice try, lady. We are not paying that." "That is the price for the parts and labor," Sarah said professionally. "Without AppleCare Plus, this is an out-of-warranty service." I looked at Kyle. "Pull out your card." "I'm not paying $3,000. Kyle shouted, causing heads to turn across the store. "That's insane. You guys are scammers. It's a screen. It should be $50. "It's a fused assembly," Sarah explained patiently. "I don't care what it is." Kyle stood up. "I'm not paying it. OP, you're rich. You bought the thing. You pay for it. I'll give you $50 for the glass, but I'm not buying you a new computer just because I closed it a little hard." "You destroyed it," I said, standing up to meet him. "You owe me the money." "I'm broke. Good luck getting blood from a stone." He turned and walked out of the Apple store, leaving me standing there with a $2,900 bill and a pile of broken aluminum. Sarah looked at me with pity. Do you want to proceed with the repair?" I looked at the invoice. I looked at the door where my friend had just walked out. "No," I said. "Print that quote for me. I need it for the police report." I walked out of the Apple store with a printed quote for $2,899 and a dead laptop. I drove straight to the police station. The officer at the desk looked at the photos of the shattered screen and the quote. "He took it from your room while you were sleeping?" the officer asked. "Yes, without permission." "That's theft," the officer said. "And since the value is over $1,000, the damage makes it grand larceny or criminal mischief, depending on how the DA looks at it." We filed a report. Then I went home. Kyle was on the couch, playing video games on his laptop. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "Did you get your toy fixed?" he asked smugly. "No," I said. "I filed a police report." Kyle dropped his controller. "You called the cops? On your roommate?" "You stole my property," I said. "And you destroyed it. You have 3 days to move out, Kyle." I spoke to the landlord. "Since you aren't on the lease," he was a sublet, "you are trespassing as of right now." "You can't kick me out," he screamed. "I have rights." "You had rights before you committed a felony in my apartment," I countered. "The lawsuit." I didn't stop at kicking him out. I hired a lawyer. I sued Kyle for replacement value of the MacBook, $4,200, since the repair was basically the cost of a new one, and I needed it immediately. Lost wages, $1,500. I missed the client deadline and lost the contract. Legal fees. The court date. Kyle showed up to civil court wearing a wrinkled shirt and looking terrified. He didn't have a lawyer. He tried to tell the judge that it was an accident and that I was rich. "Your Honor," Kyle stammered. "It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to break it." And he refused to use his insurance. The judge looked at the police report. He looked at the Apple Store quote. "Sir," the judge said to Kyle, "you entered a private room, took property that did not belong to you, and destroyed it through gross negligence. The plaintiff is not required to use his insurance, which he didn't have, to cover your crime." The verdict. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,700. Kyle started crying. "I work at a coffee shop. I can't pay that. I'll be paying it forever." "Then you should have been more careful with the lid," the judge said. The aftermath. I had to put the new MacBook on a credit card while I waited for the money. I garnished Kyle's wages. The court takes 25% of his paycheck every 2 weeks. It's not much, about $300 a month, but every time I get that notification, I smile. He had to move back in with his parents because he couldn't afford rent in the city with the garnishment. I finished my project on the new machine. It rendered beautifully. And now, my door has a heavy-duty deadbolt. Sometimes, when I'm editing late at night, I hear a phantom crunch sound. But then I look at my bank account, see the deposit from Kyle, last name, and I sleep just fine.